Scott Mitchell here with It's My Game Tennis Conference. Exciting today to have Sevi with us, Director of U10 Development with Tennis Canada. She also is the president of her own high-performance company. Welcome, Sevi. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you're going to be one of our presenters and our speakers here at the conference. This is a global international conference, which is really neat. We've never seen one of these things in our industry before, where it's all virtual. None of us have to travel anywhere to, and block off time. We can watch these presentations at any time. Over about 48 hours, we have over 20 coaches that are going to be giving some great insight on kids tennis. Over 40 hours worth of expert content, and you are one of them. So thank you for joining us again. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I know you do a lot in the tennis industry. You do a lot with Tennis Canada, but like I said, you also are the president of your own company. So fill me in. Oh, and also a speaker, author, TV analyst. I mean, when do you find time to sleep?
I know. I think I'm probably the only one. When we had to stop for a few months, I was like, oh, that's not bad. I'm happy about this one. Listen, thank you for the opening. Again, I'm so happy to be part of this amazing initiative, and only Mike Barrow can have this going on. It's amazing that we're able to do that virtually. And again, I think the objective of bringing the community of coaches together internationally for a topic that is so important, and honestly that we don't talk a lot, and it's kids tennis. And I think we have an amazing opportunity to share, to discuss, to share knowledge, and to do that with those 40 hours of content. I think it's going to be an amazing experience for us as speakers, but also for the coaches that will join us.
Yeah, I'm really excited and can't wait to watch your presentation. I know you do a lot in the industry and a lot with the kids. What are some of the key elements that you are focusing in, either in your role as your president within your own company or the director with the U10 and Tennis Canada?
Yeah, I have to say that the common objective is the same. Working with Tennis Canada, the opportunity and also the value of the kids and growing the game and having those young kids, playing and competing. It's been a mandate that we have for the past 10 years. We want to make sure that those kids are really developing properly, that are staying in our sport, that we have more and better competitors. And one of the ways that we found to do that is to go directly in their own training environment where their own coaches. And I have to say that I've been doing that for the past 6-7 years. It's been a success. Coaches and that philosophy of working together is something that it's big for me as a value as a coach, but also it's a big value that we do have at Tennis Canada. And we want to make sure that the more we're able to work together in their training environment and with the kids, we think that it's gonna make everybody coming into the sport, but also staying longer in the sport and trying to develop better competitors. And I think, again, the value of sharing is something that for me is very important. I think the only way that I can get better is by sharing and also listening to other coaches, and to do the same with the kids. So it's something that it's important on both ways. That it's either myself or with Tennis Canada. It's a value of the kids tennis that seems to be very important, and that's why this conference is going to be, I think, a game changer.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's really neat to, we're going to get such a wide perspective of how things are happening and what the key elements that coaches around the world are really focused in on. And one of the things you mentioned is your coaching philosophy. Can you share a little bit about that? You've done so much over your career that I know these experiences have really shaped you as a coach and as a mentor to others. Can you share a little bit about your coaching philosophy?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, I've been doing it for 30 years and it's been a passion since. And I think for me, it's really about the fun aspect of my job, but also of what the kids find in tennis. And I say the kids, but it's also the coaches. I think we do something that is very important. I do think that kids tennis is the base of what those players will become or not, those young boys and young girls. And, you know, my philosophy is about exactly that. You know, I want to make sure that all the coaches that I encounter into my professional career, or that I have discussion with, or kids, is that they find something that is fun and they enjoy the perspective of training and playing. And for me, that's really important. And the other thing that is important is, I always say that to coaches and they laugh. You know, I see, I'm at a stage, unfortunately or fortunately, where some of the kids that I've coached that were 8 are now 20, 25 years old. And they tell me stories that, Seth, I remember this when we were training. I remember that when we were training, it was so much fun. But none of them are telling me like, oh my God, I'm so happy to remember when you changed my grip on my forehand. And for me, that's when I can identify as a coach that I had success, that I've done my job. So the aspect of fun, the aspect of also giving the best to the coaches and to the kids so they can fulfill their best potential. So my philosophy and what I do is really around those things.
Well, I mean, you hit it, the nail on the head. I mean, we impact the kids so much, and a lot of times as coaches, we're just thinking about trying to help them with their tennis game, but we're actually helping them with life skills. And a lot of times, and you said it, a lot of times we don't see that impact till years later when they come back and you know, they embrace you and say, you know, you really changed my life, when in fact all this time we were thinking, oh, we made him a better tennis player. We do, and that's something I talk to coaches about all the time as well, is you really are making an impact that you probably won't see for many years, but just trust the process and it will come around.
No, you're so right. And the phrase that I use all the time with coaches and even with parents, you know, it's we built human beings before we're going to develop and build athletes. So I think when we know that's the core, some people disagree with that statement, and it's okay. But for me, that's the core of what I do and how I'm gonna do it also.
That's great. Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. So now tell me, you know, Tennis Canada, or just tennis in Canada, has been super successful over the last several years. And I know you've been a big part of that. What, you know, and it's from the junior players, but also now you're seeing it on the professional level as well. What are some of the key elements maybe that you all implemented years ago that you're now starting to see the dividends pay off?
Yeah, listen, yes, we had a 3 months off everywhere in the world in regards of tennis, but again, I think tennis in Canada it's gonna come back, but the intensity of what happened to us in the past year or 2 years has been amazing. From Dennis to Milos to Vasek to Andrescu to Felix. Honestly, people see that and they're like, oh my God, what's going on in Canada? And I have to say that it's been in the works for years, not to build those athletes, but to continue to believe in a strong value of working together. And I think that's why we've been successful, because we are working with the parents, with the academies, with the provincial federation, with the kids themselves, with the coaches, and also knowing that it's that kind of working together philosophy. The intent behind that is to also give them the resources to work with those players. And also bringing at the base and the core of that the pleasure of playing and training. And I have to say also something that I think are doing pretty well is mixing the development aspect of the game versus the competitive aspect of the game. And again, sometimes you do have players that come up and it's by chance. And sometimes you do have players that it's not a cycle, you know, they're coming in and they're staying and they're great competitors, they're great people. And that's why we have the results that we had in the past few years now.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of times where coaches or facilities, and I think that's what this conference hopefully will share with them is it is a process. I think there are a lot of coaches or facilities out there that are looking, look, if I implement this one thing, this big aha thing, it's going to change everything. Where in fact it's the little things like you've mentioned in our time together so far, and then the process of letting it build over time that's going to be the key to the success.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And I think that's something also I would love to say to the coaches is like the purpose of this and sharing best practice and sharing our knowledge is for those coaches to take whatever fits with them and with their environment and what they can do in their club and with their players. There's no there's no like new solution on having success. I think, like you say, Scott, you're so right. Success is about longevity. It's about believing and structuring everything we do upon our values, believing in them, and also trying to, again, nourish that talent that we see at a young age. And who knows where that's going to bring them to. But it's really, like you say, it's the little things, it's the consistency of those little things, is the care for the players and that process, and making sure that you have coaches around that do believe in the same culture of developing those players.
So we've talked about it a little bit, I think maybe in depth on maybe the technical and the technical side, but if you had one thing to say to coaches, or maybe it's a facility that's really wants to ramp up their growth of kids tennis, where's the element? Where's your main focus for those clubs, or that one point that you could say, hey, this is where I think you should focus in on to really grow kids tennis for your club or your country or your area?
Great question. We have a great opportunity right now where tennis seems to be the safest sport in the world. So we will have more and more kids coming to our sport. So we need to take this opportunity. And the number one thing I would say to the coaches, they need to bring the fun back to our sport. Tennis is fun. It should be fun. They should learn new skills. They should develop those skills. The other thing I would say to the coaches, it's unfortunate, but it's a reality. We do not have kids that are as athletic as we had in the past. It is a reality. In all the sports in the world, even in school, kids are not moving as much, and we need to prioritize at a younger age the physical literacy, the little things, the throwing, catching, hitting, running, kicking, and that we need to do in our own environment. And that's something that if we bring those two things together and making sure that the environment we create with those kids, there's no way we can't have success. And success for us is what? Is having more kids playing, more kids staying in our sport, and who knows where that's going to get. We had that environment for a Felix Auger-Aliassime. Look at what he's doing right now.
Right.
So, and if you ask him, you know, what did you like about tennis? And he's going to tell you that I had fun playing, and he wants to continue to have fun playing. So those are really the two major things that I would say to coaches: bring fun back to the sport, and also make sure that you're developing the physical literacy, the physical development of our kids is very important.
What's your thought when it comes to, and I know a lot of, at least more recently over the last few years, is you're hearing more and more talk from coaches about it's healthy and it's good for the kids' development to be playing additional sports. What's your thought with the kids playing other sports? How long should they be doing it? At what age do they really, or should they really start to focus in on the tennis only?
Yeah, again, great point, Scott. Playing another sport should be mandatory for all the kids under 12. And it should be like that because that's where they can develop the general abilities that they need as athletes, but also their mind, their creativity, developing different aspects of playing soccer with, you know, using your feet, your balance, playing baseball with
Yep.
hitting something that comes at you, your eyes, your perception. And that's why it's more difficult, because we see kids that are doing one sport. And I was even asking myself, and I had a conversation with coaches, because we've been saying for years, young kids need to play other sports, and we need to continue to encourage that. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem that it's changing. And why? Because we have been professionalized sport at a young age, and that's all the sports are the same. You play 3-4 hours when you're 7 years old, then you turn around and you want to play sport, and you're like, let's play another sport, but I don't have time.
Right.
I don't know about you guys, but I feel that we don't even have season sports anymore.
Right.
We play hockey all year. We play tennis all year. We play soccer all year. So you have two choices here. You either try to change something that seems to be very difficult to change, or you try to do it in your own training environment. And that's something I'm going to discuss with the coaches on my presentation. I think there's a way that we can bring that aspect of creativity, diversifying training, developing abilities that are non-tennis but connecting to tennis in our tennis environment. And I think if we do a better job at that, yes, continue to promote the fact that they need to play other sport. It's important, but don't wait for that to happen to work it in your own environment.
Wow, it's great. And you mentioned your presentation and your time with us during the conference, August 14th to the 23rd for those out there. So right now, the title is a little bit of a work in progress, but training situations in some form. Tell us a little bit more, without giving us the secrets that they want to tune into, but tell us a little bit more about what the coaches should expect from watching your presentation.
Yes, exactly. I don't want to give too much here. I want them to come and watch that presentation. I think the intent behind the presentation, again, is sharing knowledge, is giving the possibility for coaches to get information into the development of the kids when they go from those red, orange, green, and going to the regular ball. I think sometimes we're missing that aspect of what is the vision? What is it that those kids need to be doing at the different stages to then have the competencies to be able to do it at under 12 with the regular ball. So what I want to give the coaches is I want to give them an opportunity to have different skills ability, to give them different exercises perhaps that they can try and work in their own environment with their own players. And hopefully it's going to help them also to bring their own vision into what they need to do with those under 10, under 12 players.
You know, you mentioned the different types of balls, and I don't know what it's like in Canada. I know a little bit around the world, but in the U.S. we still have this issue with a lot of the coaches really embracing the different balls and the size of the court. And I always tell coaches, we've got to stop viewing them as age, orange ball and red ball is this age or whatever. It's more of a tool to be used over time. And it doesn't mean that a child at a different age that typically would not be on that court or ball can't be on that court, because it's a tool. Are you finding the same, pushback in Canada from some of the coaches?
I have to say that it's not as strong as perhaps what you guys have in the States, but we do have pushbacks. We do have, and from parents and from coaches,
right,
the perception that the ball is a level of play.
Right.
I'm sure you hear the same thing. Parents saying, "Oh, my kid is ready to play with the regular ball." Or I remember I did a presentation with Mike 2 years ago or 3 years ago in Orlando, and we had players on, and they were with the regular ball, and I was like, wow, 7, 8 years old. And I think it's really making sure that we continue to educate parents and coaches that the ball is a tool for development. And I do agree with you that the transition of the court, it's a transition that needs to be based. Some countries it's based on age. It is for us in Canada, it is for you guys in the States, but I think it needs also to be based on the competencies and the abilities of the kids. I've seen some kids that are so small, they're trying to play regular ball, full court. they hurt themselves, their technique is going everywhere. And why? Just because they're not on the proper environment to develop. So I would say that we do have some pushback. We continue to say, you know what, here's the vision, here's the pathway. Try to have the kids coming in, see the balls as a tool. And in my trainings, honestly, sometimes I have kids that I do red ball, and I have orange ball, and I have green ball, because depending on the skill that I want to work with, I will be using different balls. So again, it's a challenge, but I do have to say that everything is a balance. There are some kids that will go through the pathway very quickly, 9 years old, will be ready, will have the physical aspect to play regular ball full court, and others it's going to take less time. We just need to get away from, you're good, you play with the yellow ball, you're not good, you're going to the green ball. So that's a kind of education that we need to continue to do pretty much everywhere in the world, I think.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And you mentioned it just now, but also earlier in our talk is the communication aspect, right? Communication from you to the coaches that you're working with, but also the communication between the coaches and the parents. And, you know, we've heard it many times before as the nightmare parent. And I always refer to the nightmare parent as just the parent that is thirsting for information. They're lacking communication from the coaches, which is why they're acting out. They don't know what you're doing with their child or why their child's in certain areas. Do you spend a lot of time when you're working with the coaches to get them to understand how important the communication aspect is with the coaching environment?
Great observation, Scott. I think it's 7-8 years ago now, I wrote a book called The Performance at Which Cost? And the intent behind the book is in French only for now, sorry, but the intent behind the book, it was to give a sense of kind of a structure to parents. And the reason that it started is just because I had a lot of parents coming to my office and asking questions, just because they didn't know what to do. And that's why I wrote that book. And for me, and in my coaching, part of educating parents needs to be something that all coaches have to do to make sure that the process of development of the kid is clean and is as best as we can do it. And to do that, we need to include the parents in that development. I think we've been excluding them. And the only reason coaches have done that, I would say 2 reasons. One is because some parents are really too much involved and for the wrong reason, where instead of giving the opportunity to their kid to train, to develop, to compete, they want to give them an investment, and they want to see the investment go very far. So when you see that, you want to push that away, because it's like, what is that? The other reason we're pushing them away, and that's what I hope to do also in the presentation, is we need to give tools to coaches to deal with the questions that parents have. And I think the more we're going to do that, the easier it's going to be for both entities to work together in the same objectives of the development of the kid. So I do think that parents' education is important. I do think that the people that are the reason behind the success and that education is us coaches. We do need to do a better job to inform the parents of their role, of what to expect when their kid is 5, 7, 10, 12, 16, because it's changing along the way. And like I always say to parents and even coaches, I said, guys, if all research is saying that, you know, it takes 10 years to build an athlete, I would say it takes 10 years to build a good parent. So it's a process. Yeah. It's a challenge for them also. They come into a world that is, some of them know, some of them have no idea. Nope. So we need to help and support them along the way. And the one person that will be happy about that will probably be the kid.
Yeah, great points. Great points. So, you know, this conference was said, a global kids tennis conference like we've never seen before, August 14th to the 23rd. we want people to join because it's information from coaches around the world that a lot of coaches have never heard, never seen present, and they've got great ideas, great information that'll help us really grow our sport. If you had to say one thing that coaches are going to miss out on if they don't sign up and register for this, what's the one thing that you think that they're going to miss out on the most? Like we said, it's a conference that we've never really seen before. The main thing is you don't have to travel anywhere to do this. So what's so important about this conference that you think people should tune into?
People need to understand that the opportunity that is given to them to be part of a community around the world that will talk about one topic, and is kids tennis, they have to join in and they have to come. And if they can take only 5% of 40 hours of content, of quality speakers, of people that are there for the same reason, the passion of the sport, the sharing knowledge, I honestly think it's going to be unfortunate for those coaches that are not joining in, because it's an opportunity that perhaps will never come around again, to have those quality speakers, 40 hours of content. You need to come and join us for sure.
Yeah, well, I think the word that you use that I think sums it all up is community. You know, if we get more of us talking about the issues and the concerns that we're having growing our sport, and we're all talking and collaborating and coming up with solutions and making it really a community, we're going to really make an impact on the sport.
I totally agree, and I think that's why, you know, organizing this, I'm sure it's a lot of work, but the intent and what's behind it's beyond us, and it's an opportunity of a lifetime for the coaches, and I have to say, it's an opportunity of a lifetime for us speakers to be able to connect with the world on kids tennis.
Sevi, I appreciate your time. I know you're super busy up there, and I'm excited to watch your presentation. It's My Game Kids Tennis Conference. And again, thank you for your time. We will see you very soon, in just a little over a month or two.
Thank you, Scott, and looking forward to seeing all the coaches at the presentation in August.
Awesome. Thanks, Sevi.